Hello to everyone, salut à tous et à toutes. With this vlog, what I'm going to cover and what I hope to give a better insight into for you all is my life and experience as a Peace Corps trainee here in Guinea. Now, in order to better explain what it means to be a Peace Corps trainee, joining the Peace Corps essentially can be likened to starting a new job. Just as any new job that one could take would have an onboarding period and an orientation, there is an onboarding and orientation period for joining the Peace Corps. And that is essentially what I am currently going through and undertaking by being a Peace Corps trainee. In Peace Corps terms, this onboarding and orientation period is known as pre-service training. During pre-service training, Peace Corps invitees, such as myself, who are now in country in their destination, are not considered volunteers because they're still going through that onboarding process. And so we are called Peace Corps trainees. And so during the pre-service training, the Peace Corps orientation and onboarding period, it's a bit of a longer process as well than a normal job. And that is because the work of a future Peace Corps volunteer is much more complex and kind of all-encompassing than a normal job, I would say. Once a trainee becomes a volunteer after the end of pre-service training, you are a volunteer 24/7, 365. And not only that, but there's also complexities regarding living in a foreign country, cross-cultural understanding, safeguarding your health and safety and security, all in a foreign context. And so during PST, pre-service training, the aim is to acquire knowledge, skills, and abilities that are needed for successful development work, cultural adaptation and integration, safeguarding one's own health and security and safety. Because once the Peace Corps trainee becomes a Peace Corps volunteer after swearing in, that is, once finishing the orientation period, the individual becomes really on the job, certainly much more independent as well, and then the real work begins. Within that context and framework for the objectives and the mission of Peace Corps pre-service training, I'm now going to cover how Peace Corps training is accomplished and consequently what is the experience of me as a trainee. And so during pre-service training, the trainees such as myself, are evaluated and given a lot of feedback by the host country post staff who are Peace Corps employees, and that their mission is to form and to train Peace Corps trainees. We are evaluated upon all of the criteria for the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are needed for our future positions after pre-service training ends, and we are given a lot of constructive feedback in that evaluation. So consequently, mistakes and questions are okay in this atmosphere and even encouraged, because that's how growth occurs, and that's how Peace Corps trainees ultimately are going to be best prepared for their future job. I will also share a motto that our group cohort has here in Guinea that really highlights the atmosphere and the how of Peace Corps training. We have a saying our cohort does of be brave, not perfect. And so that really encapsulates how our purpose during training is to seek growth and increased understanding, and not necessarily perfection. It's also helpful to know how Peace Corps Guinea is broken up into projects and sectors for the volunteers here. Trainees that are invited here are assigned into one of three sectors that Guinea, Peace Corps Guinea staff and Peace Corps staff in Washington have collaborated with and upon with the Guinean government to establish these programs. So first there is public health, and second program is education, and then lastly there is an agriculture program. And so my cohort has trainees in each of the three. We are about 18 trainees in total, and I specifically have been assigned to the agriculture program, and I have about we are five trainees in the agriculture program. So with this understood, in the context of Peace Corps training, there are some aspects of training, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are common across all three sectors, trainees for all three sectors, but there are some that vary according to whatever sector and type of work the future volunteer will be doing. Now, to take a bit of a deeper dive into the agriculture specific aspect of my training, the aim of the agriculture program and me as a future volunteer is to increase food security and improve living and revenue generating possibilities for agricultural communities and families in Guinea. So with that aim, the method that we have during pre-service training is a heavy reliance upon mastery for the trainee of improved crop cultivation management practices and technologies, and in addition, community co-facilitation and project management as well. So now, as a means and a method for increasing and facilitating food security through improved crop cultivation management practices and technologies, one place that starts in and one activity that starts with is at the home garden level and the smallholder fruit and vegetable production level. Within that, I have had training and activities during pre-service training relevant to garden creation and garden planning here within the Guinean context, and learning about different types of raised beds and placement of garden spaces within communities and natural ecosystem environments. Now, within the garden theme of agriculture training here during pre-service training, there are a number of techniques within the garden that I have been learning about and experiencing and experimenting with. These include soil water conservation and how that can be done in a Guinean garden, crop protection, so using netting, fencing, biological repellents, including such as wood ash or pepper extracts. We have had trainings on seed production and how to conserve seeds after a growing season for use during future growing seasons. And another area of focus has been compost and compost tea as well. And another sub-aspect of agriculture training has been regarding multiplication and propagation techniques for trees that have high value, capacity, and potential from both production and monetary standpoint, as well as nutritional and monetary and medicinal as well. So one such species is banana here in Guinea. So I've been learning about various banana multiplication techniques and other tree species here, such as cashew, lemon, various citrus, and papaya as well, and including nut trees as well, so cola nut, karité, cashew. I have been learning about grafting techniques, air layering, and other tree propagation techniques, including by cuttings as well. Moving now away from program-specific training, which for me is agricultural. One aspect of pre-service training that is common between all volunteers is common and shared between all volunteers is language training. And so in Guinea, the language requirements that a volunteer will need to have will be French and then a local ethnic language as well. But now for me, however, as I already came into service and came into training with a sufficiently proficient level of French, I have been able during pre-service training already to just focus solely on, pretty much solely and uniquely on a local ethnic language class. And so the local language I am learning is called Susu. Susu training for me during pre-service training has definitely taken a traditional pedagogical approach. So classroom style learning, I'm paired with a local language trainer that's employed by the Peace Corps, and we do one-on-one sessions every day for either 2 hours or 4 hours, depending on the day and what the schedule for the day looks like. And outside of class, I have small homework assignments as well, given to me by the language facilitator. And I have study habits outside of study and language practice habits outside of class as well, including flashcards to help with memorization of expressions, verbs, and vocab, and also just practicing the language with local Guinean staff and community members in the village where our training center is located. And to close out this highlight now about language training of my Peace Corps pre-service training, I thought it might be of interest among you all to see a little bit and hear a little bit of what French and Susu look and sound like. So I have put together a recording of a few phrases. The phrases each have the same meaning, but I state them in French, or rather English, then French, and then Susu. So take a listen. I'm going to Moriba's house. I want to call my parents, but there is no cell service here. Je vais chez Moriba. Je veux appeler mes parents, mais il n'y a pas de réseau ici. Nsi a fait Borima Hongi. Mwama Waya, Mihi, Koni Muna Rezobe.